Hi everybody, it's Rob Scott here from UC Today, and in this session I'm joined by Enghouse Interactive, who will be providing some top advice on how to maintain quality customer experience in a time of crisis. So today I'm joined by Jeremy Payne, Group VP of Marketing for Enghouse Interactive. Welcome Jeremy, how are you today?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for that intro, Rob, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Well, it's my pleasure. So thanks for joining me, and a really interesting session coming up. So I think first of all, Jeremy, before we get stuck in, why don't you introduce yourself and Enghouse Interactive, please?
Yeah, so I guess my role as VP of Marketing and Alliances for Enghouse, I've been doing this role for the company for almost a decade now, and I think I've probably spent something like the last 25 years doing versions of this type of role in different technology companies. Background in BPM, CRM, and now customer interaction management. When we look at Enghouse as a company, it's an unusual company in one way because whilst we have a really significant R&D team, we also grow rapidly through acquisition. So we've bought numerous companies over the years, and I think we've bought probably something like 5-6 companies in the last 5-6 months. So we're always adding to the portfolio of technology and IP and products that we have. I guess at the core of what we do, whilst it's all about customer interaction management, most of the customers that we have a contact center in some way, shape, or form at the heart of what they do. And then allied and wrapped around that, there's a whole bunch of other supporting technologies.
Great stuff. Thanks for that. And so, I mean, right now we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and businesses have sent a lot of staff home to work, or predominantly the whole workforce. So, and many businesses have never thought of setting up remote working or sending their contact center home. So, at a time like this, maintaining customer experience is critical to survival. And Jeremy, as a leading provider of contact center technology, what are your customers going through right now?
So, I think it's almost like a film, isn't it, where someone just kind of hit fast forward. It's like when you see somebody's life flash before them. It's like everything seemed to spin in the space of like a week or a 2-week period. And so if we think about the cloud, and some of the concerns people might have had about moving to the cloud and security and, is it the right thing to do? And will it integrate with X, Y, Z that we've already got? It feels like so much of that just got absolutely washed away in the last sort of almost 72 hours. People just went from, we've got no choice but to work from home. So we have to kind of make this work. So I think when we look at many of the organizations that we work with, it's been a double whammy because not only are many of their staff or almost all of their staff having to work from home in some way, shape or form, but many of them have experienced an enormous spike in interaction and call volume. So customers cancelling orders, customers checking on status of orders, customers trying to find out different pieces of information. And obviously, depending on the sector that you're in, that varies, but almost all of them are experiencing some degree of change, not only in the way they work as an organization, but also in the way their customers are trying to interact with them. So, when you start to think about how do you solve those problems, all of the customers that we deal with have got the well-being, safety and security of their staff at the top of the list, and rightly so. And then cascading down from that, it's how do you keep the plane in the air? How do you keep the business running in such a way that when this does all blow through, people have still got a job and there's still a business, to feed and pay everyone. So huge amounts of change right now. And candidly, some of our customers are better placed than others to deal with that. It's not by accident that you see certain cloud providers ring fencing capacity on their cloud for existing customers. It's not by accident that you see certain people that sell laptops seeing a massive spike in demand. So, it's kind of interesting in one way that, like throwing a stone in the pond, how the ripples are rippling out in front of our eyes as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got a lot of contact center customers.
Yeah.
So I was interested to hear kind of, what are their priorities, and what are the things that contact centers are doing right now to maintain that CX, because that is absolutely crucial. If you're going to drop customer experience, it's in a time like this, isn't it? So what kinds of things are really top of the list?
Yeah, so I think it's because we have sort of various customers, and previous pinch points, if you like, have been sort of weather related. So the one day in the year when it snows in the UK and people are forced to work from home. So what we are seeing is organisations that did think ahead and have got some sort of business continuity plan in place. They have got cloud infrastructure or the ability to virtualize what they've got, are doing so. Those that haven't are working with us right now in a sort of kind of fairly urgent capacity to virtualize their systems to allow their people to work from home. But we're also seeing people doing the obvious quick win smart stuff. So obvious stuff, changing content and information on your homepage of your website. Obvious stuff like changing the comfort messages and the options on your IVR flow. Obvious stuff like callback options, so people aren't sat frustrated, burning time waiting to use. We're seeing people that have got social kind of crowdsourced advisors, so people that as a one customer asks a question and that question is resolved, that answer is getting posted on their knowledge management forum, the FAQ, or it's getting put out there on Twitter. So all of these things are, you can use the word called deflection, but they're in a way helping customers help themselves more quickly. One of the first places a customer is going to check for an answer is Google. So if you can find a way that when they type that question into Google, it arrives, takes them to a place where they've got an answer, well, that's like one less call that you've got to kind of handle. So, there's lots of other stuff that some organizations have candidly already got in place, and we can start to get onto AI and bots and all those kind of things. But for many people now, the real big wins is the 80-20 rule. Getting the basics right will pay a massive dividend. And obviously it helps if you've got, the right infrastructure in place to start with.
Absolutely. So do you think expectations have been lowered? Would customer expectations be lowered in a time like this? Or do you think, could the customer still wants it to be ultra smooth and convenient to get in touch with the business?
I think, being honest, I think people are more likely to give people a degree of latitude right now, because everyone recognizes this is, at worst, a once in 100 year. The last time this happened was 100 years ago. So it is unprecedented, and it is not normal kind of business situation. So I think most of the general public recognise that and will give people latitude. But equally, most organisations that we deal with have an internal standard and an expectation of themselves that they want to offer a world-class service. They want to do a great job. So it's really, how do they keep doing that? And candidly, I think we're at a inflection point, in terms of the way we all work and in the way customer service works, that lots of these changes have been there, and they've been sort of, some companies have embraced them and some haven't, and some have been researching them but haven't done anything about it. I think people's hands have got forced in the last week, 2 weeks. So, if you imagine you're a CEO and you're about to re-sign the lease on your office building this time next year, having seen that most of the workforce seem to be able to work reasonably well from home, you're probably going to think, I'm going to sign a smaller lease. Having seen the need for people to have a laptop rather than try and carry a desktop computer home, there's lots of things that are kind of changing. And I think when you think about customer service, we are going to move to a world where more and more of it is home-based, where customer service advisors are sat in their home office, they are camped onto a virtual contact center, and they're managing their shift patterns and time that they do based on their lifestyle and how it fits around home and family. So I think lots of those changes are going to really, really accelerate over the next 12 months and post-corona. And I think we'll look back in time and there'll be sort of pre-corona and post-corona, and post-corona will be like, whatever system you're using, it needs to work in a virtual kind of cloud way where you can access it from any location.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how can organisations and companies with contact centres or customer service teams uh, make keep their employees productive at a time like this, working from home?
So it's really interesting because when we look at the customers that we work with and the way different organizations structure, set up, manage their contact center and the people that work within it, what you tend to see is the people that have moved down that virtualization road, that do have employees working from home more, giving them empowerment to manage their own time. So through a workforce management application, signing on to a shift or taking a shift or not taking a shift. When you give people that kind of empowerment to manage themselves, the vast majority seem to have they have less turnover of staff, they have higher productivity, the quality of staff that they have, and are able to retain seems better. And of course, at the back end of that, you see higher CSAT scores and net promoter scores and all those good things as well. So there's a whole bunch of technology tools that support this, of course. So you've got all the workforce management stuff and workforce optimization, call and screen recording. We've got real-time speech analytics that can listen in real time to two sides of a phone call. If somebody uses the wrong language, the wrong phrase, uses a swear word, whatever else, the software will pick that up and flag that to a supervisor who could be, sat, in a different country, but they will be pulled into that call or interaction in real time. So all of the technologies are there to kind of make this work. But we often describe to people, it's two sides of a coin, and technology and software is one part of it. But if you haven't got the buy-in and the consent of the people using those technologies, you're never really going to get the full benefit and value. So when you think about, customer journeys or business process, it's about that cultural piece and optimizing and aligning the people and the process and the policies around the desired outcome.
So, so it's really interesting, isn't it? Because with contact centers at the moment, especially in recent years, but we're hearing a lot more about AI and machine learning in the contact center, and bots and chatbots and all sorts of things happening. So is now the time for automation? Is now the time for the machines to take care of customer experience? Or do we need that human touch? What's more important in a time like this?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I think you've got sort of like three variables there. So we've got, if we went kind of pre-corona and we said, is this the right time? We would talk to customers about, digital by design versus digital by default. So if you interact with a low-cost airline, you're interacting with an organization that's basically got a digital by default policy. It doesn't really matter whether you want to phone them or not. They don't want to speak to you. So you're going to be forced down a road, which is you're self-serving in some way, shape or form through their website, through their automated systems, the web chat, AI, call it what you will. Then when we think about digital by design, it's really about taking the best bits of automation and bots and AI and all that kind of good stuff and using it where it's appropriate. But at every single point, having an escape hatch so that if things go wrong or the customer can't get what they want or get where they want to get to, it will escalate it in real time to a human who can pick up that thread and that conversation and deal with that customer's needs. When we think about what does that mean in the eye of this corona storm, McKinsey often use the phrase moments of truth. So if you think about your experience as a customer interacting with different organizations, most of the time, 99% of the interactions you have with whoever you shop with just go straight through process, everything's normal, everything goes to plan. And then there's that one time when something goes wrong. For you as a customer, that's a moment of truth. It could be you've lost your phone, you've lost your wallet. It could be there's something happened on the back of the coronavirus. But at that point, pushing you down a pre-scripted, predetermined, highly automated, digital by default route is probably not going to be the right outcome, because as you start to hit a stumbling block, you were already emotionally charged and at a fairly heightened state. as you get more frustrated with not getting where you want to get to, you're kind of, going to boil over as a customer. So having that escape hatch built in where you can escalate to someone that's properly trained, equipped, and the most important word here, empowered, to get you where you're trying to get to. So we often sort of talk about, there's certain sort of shops, if you walk into John Lewis and you deal with somebody there, if you have a problem, you're generally speaking to somebody who's empowered on that shop floor to make a decision that's going to help you get where you're going to get to. And equally, there could be another store that you walk into where there's a company policy, it's rigid, and however much that individual might want to help you, the policy says X, Y, Z, and that's the end of it. They're not going to be able to get you where you want to get to. So these are sort of what we call moments of truth. When you think about automation and AI and bots, huge amounts of value to be had, and there's huge areas where they do really create value for the customer and for the organization. What we tend to see is they work well in predefined, pre-scripted areas. The moment you start to move too far away from that is the moment that you risk losing the customer's confidence and goodwill with you. And I'll give you an example. Let's say right now you typed onto Google, not that you can because you're in lockdown, but let's say you typed into Google Italian restaurant within a 5-mile radius of where I live, and you find an Italian restaurant, it's got great reviews, and you think, great, I'm going to go there tonight. You drive there, you get out your car and find the restaurant closed down 3 months ago. At that point, the information Google gave you was not what you were expecting. So now you're sat thinking, next time I go on and do a search with them, my confidence level, instead of thinking it's going to be 100%, I'm now kind of thinking 70, 80%. Maybe I need to double check. Maybe I should phone the restaurant to see if they are actually open or not, or whether they exist. And AI, in whatever shape or form it comes in, ultimately underneath it, but the supporting technology is a knowledge management system. And that knowledge management system is just like Google. It needs feeding with up-to-date, fresh content every hour of every day. If you're not doing that, the AI doesn't work as well as it should. So as you sort of constrain AI back to sort of predefined, predetermined things, it's much easier to control how that information is updated and maintained. Once you start to make it really broad, you need a lot of humans and people feeding it with information.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so choose your tools carefully right now, especially in this time of crisis. But in terms of going forward, Enghouse got a very, very capable and fully featured contact center portfolio. How can organizations get in touch with Enghouse and find out more about the types of technologies you offer?
So, I mean, the easiest thing to do is just visit enghouseInteractive.co.uk, and the homepage of our website kind of should hopefully get you, to where you need to get to fairly quickly. We've got various, on the back of the coronavirus, we've got 2 or 3 fairly major promotions on right now. They're not just open to existing customers; they are open to prospective customers as well. We have access to our virtual cloud contact center. So if you're an organization and for whatever reason that the infrastructure you've got right now won't virtualize and you need to have or get people working from home quickly, we can spin you up very quickly on our cloud platform and get things working. The same with video conferencing technology. If you've got a workforce that needs to work from home, we have a video conferencing and meeting platform. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff we do as well. We have all the IVRs and most of the things that you're likely to need to serve as a customer, we have. But right now, most people, I would say, is don't worry too much about AI and bots right now. Let's sort of get the basics working really well within this new world order that we currently live in. And we'll come back to AI and bots and all that exciting stuff when the dust has settled on the coronavirus.
A really good point, well made. And Jeremy, I'd like to thank you for joining me today, and appreciate everything you're doing to keep the lights on for your customers as well during the pandemic. So for now, thanks very much, and all the best.
That's great. Thanks so much, Rob. Appreciate it.